Now, from a learning perspective, part of the reason I pulled up this layout with a template is keep in mind a very simple understanding that this template you could have created yourself. You could have created this and then saved it as a template. This is nothing more than a page that's pre-saved with all these elements already placed inside of it. More importantly, if we take a second to actually go through these different elements, you'll see how they're set up, that these are set up in accordions, etc., etc. This is the accordion widget, or element, I should say, that is part of your selection in here. So I'm going to cancel that for a second. So if you understand that, how this is working, so let's say that I want to read more, but I want to go to a different page. Well, how would I do that? Well, let's understand something. I don't want to have to flip back and forth between my pages, so one of the things I can do is I'm going to go, and I'm just going to copy this URL, and I'm going to paste it, Command-T tab. So now I have two back ends. Little production technique here. All right, now, what I want to do is get the URL to some of my other pages. So let's say that I want to pop over to, let's actually do this, and let's pop over to our parallax page. So I'm going to view this page, and there's the URL right there. I'm going to copy that, and just hit the back button. So therefore, when I click here, I want to go to that URL. So I simply click the button, and it says select the URL, and I'm going to put the URL in here. Now, if you want to open up in a separate tab or window, I might not suggest you do that in WordPress, because otherwise people are going to have all these different pop-up windows and they might get a little upset. Now, the title is for search engine purposes, so you might want to put in title information about what this page is about. So, you know, online WordPress training, and if I learn how to spell, that would be a good thing. So similar to what I mentioned in previous videos, don't be lazy as far as word salading and putting information that's going to help you. And I set the link. Okay, now do you want this to say read more, or you want to say something like get this deal, which is something that AppSumo runs a lot. How do you want this to be displayed? Rounded, squared, outline, 3D. Now, I'm not a big 3D fan, but just to share with you. So let's make this 3D, and let's make the size of this be a little larger. Okay. Now again, we'll talk more about CSS and setting up classes, CSS class, not training classes, by the way, and I'm going to save the changes. Now, here's a very interesting premise here. Let's update those changes. This button is visually very different looking than the other button. So if in fact you're going to take this template idea and use it as an idea, I might suggest to actually delete this row by clicking here, and then just set this up exactly the way you want it, and then duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. That's just, again, working smart, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now, this is in section 1. Okay, if I come down here to section 2, then I have that information in there as well. Okay, does that make sense? So this is the accordion, so I can duplicate accordions. So I now have section, what do I have here? Section 1 and 2. So let's close this for a second. Okay, so if I come down here to add section or clone this, then it's going to add a new accordion section. Somehow my computer's acting a little wacky here. Okay, so maybe that was just too much. So basically what this did is it added a whole new accordion. So I have two separate accordions. I'm going to actually trash that. So the accordion is the container that's set up with a number of sections. And if you want to add, so I have two sections, I want to add an additional section, I can just click right here. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to add a new section, but then you have to fill in the section with the information that you want. So I'm going to do my little trick of going back out of here. I'm going to leave the page and then come right back into the page. So basically I didn't save the changes. So let's see what this experience looks like. So let's hit the update button. let's go and preview. So now I have my pages. Now again, this is bigger than that because that's how I set it up. And if I click on that, then that goes to my Parallax page. Okay, now obviously you don't want to go to a page that doesn't have some kind of navigation system, so that would probably not be, this would be a good opening page if in fact I had navigation in here, but I don't, so I'm going to hit the back button. Okay, clicking here does nothing because I didn't set that up. Now again, if I want to visually adjust this from the page itself, I can do that by clicking right here, Edit Visual Composer. It's going to bring the information up. And I'm going to put a photo over to the left. So again, based on these choices, I can click the single image, which is my single image element that I got from clicking the plus button originally. Now keep in mind, this was part of the template that was pre-built for you, but you can make modifications and changes to it and then save it as your own template. You can take an existing template because it has the material and elements that you need, make it your own, and then just do a save as. And I'll show you how to do that in the next video. All right, so I'm going to click image here. Let's go and grab this image here. Again, keep in mind that I would put any kind of descriptive information because that's going to help me with search engines. I set the image. Now, let me share with you a really cool thing. I'm going to add another image in here. Let's add this one. Okay, so what I'm sharing with you is I didn't actually have to delete this. I could just simply select another image. And it's going to replace what I already have. So I don't actually have to delete this, although I did that in previous videos. To share with you to make it a little less confusing, I click right on that and I can just add, swap out the video, or swap out the image, I should say. And if you want your image size to be a certain size, so let's actually make this large. So there's large, not to be confused with full. Full would be the original full-size image. And I'm going to save the changes. Okay, now if that's too big for your liking, let's change that to medium and save the changes. Again, this is on the front end, so you're going to instantly see the changes happen. Okay, widget title can be whatever you want the widget title to be. My new product. Okay, my new product. Spell it with a capital N, which would probably make sense, and save the changes. Okay, so again, I'm on the front end of this, so I can visually see how my website is being built. Here's my design options again, that I can do any kind of background color, theme options, cover. Again, experiment with this stuff in here. I'm not going to spend time boring you with all the little nuances in here, but keep in mind, margin space is outside of the box, padding space is inside of the box. And that's for this particular single image element. So as an example, if I wanted to put more space between new product and the picture, I would do something like this. Let's put 20 pixels on the top and save the changes. Okay, and that's going to take this out. Actually, my mistake on that. This is part of the photo because it was inside the photo. See, that was inside this photo. So that's not going to separate that. But if this had a colored background, then I could have more space between that so it's not smashed up against the top by putting padding in here. So as an example, let's pick a colored background. Let's pick this background and save the changes. Oh, I'm sorry, that's border. I'm really not paying attention. Okay, background, duh. Let's select this and save the changes. All right, now watch what's happening here. If it's white on white or if it's color on color, it really doesn't matter much about padding or margin, but from a design standpoint, in this particular case, I do want to pay attention. So what I'm going to do is just do 20 pixels. In fact, that might be a little too much. Let's do 10 pixels all the way around. Now, if you really want to be lazy, you can just copy, paste, paste. So now if I save the changes, I'm going to get something like this happening. Okay? So really cool. So I can change different theme, save the changes. Now, that's probably not going to change much there. Oh, that's for, I'm sorry. That's for the, my mistake. That's for an image that I want to put in there. Okay. So again, the padding information is basically the distance between the edge and the inside. The margin space is something totally different. So if I was to take margin space on the outside of, say, I'm going to over-exaggerate this. Let's put 150 pixels. Watch what happens. So now I have 150 pixels of space between point A and point B. Now it still wants to stay in that container, so what would have to happen, you would have to give up space for that particular element. Okay, so notice it made the element smaller because and if I was to do something like 250 pixels and save the changes, well, you get something that probably knocks it off the page. But once again, margin space, let's just change that to 20. Margin space is outside of the parameter, outside of the box. Okay, so I just want to share that very important information with you. Let's close this and let's update. That means I made a permanent change to my element. So I'm going to come back here for a second, which goes back into my back end. Actually, let's close that. Go back to pages for a second. Go back to page 1. Where were we here? So the one thing that I want to share with you is don't be intimidated. Take it one step at a time. If you get to know these are really pretty simple. If I click here, this is going to bring up more information. So I can put video players, a post slider, a widget, whatever you want. Just experiment with this. But what I'm trying to share with you, don't be intimidated. This can be very intimidating. Okay, if you click here, this will be less intimidating because it will just give you the structure of what you're looking for. Okay, one step at a time. So in our next video, we'll continue along this line and I'll share with you some other techniques. So stay tuned.